Welcome to another edition of Buzzworthy News. I'm Steph Sinclair, and I'm here with my lovely co-blogger, Kat Kennedy, who has the awesome Australian accent, and we're here to bring you some new young adult news.
Hello, Bookish people, and welcome to this week's Buzzworthy News.
Are you Sherlock Holmes this week, Kat?
Nah, I don't know what I am. Let's get this show on the road, the Bane Chronicles. This week it got an audiobook narrator, and oh my god, Steph, have you heard this guy talk?
Oh, who is it?
This guy is Jamie Bamber, and his accent, he's English-born, English actor, and his voice is sex. Sex for your ears. Oh my god. I have never been interested in this series. The Bane Chronicles is a co-authored series by Cassandra Clare, Sarah Reese Brennan, and Maureen Johnson.
Is this the Shadowhunters? More Shadowhunters involved in this series? Just going out on a limb here.
Yeah, it's a series of short stories following the adventures of Magnus Bane, who's a very popular character from the Mortal Instruments series. It is narrated by Jamie, who you will know from Battlestar Galactica if you were ever into that show. Oh my god, but just listening to him read this, it's the first time I've ever even thought about picking this series up.
Well, now I'm going to have to go check it out. I'm really into audiobooks now anyway, and I just love listening to narrators with English accents.
Well, you know, just get yourself a nice drink, a nice stiff drink, settle down, close the door, dim the lights, turn it on, and enjoy Steph, because you will thank me later.
So what else do we got this week going on? Something about a 3D book cover?
Yeah, Chang-Ra Lee. I am not very familiar with his work. Apparently, he's an award-winning novelist for his books Native Speaker and The Surrendered. But he's got another book coming out. It's about a dystopian future, which for young adult crossover readers, that's not going to be anything too original. It's one of those, the masses are working for the minority rich people who are making their lives miserable. We've all, in the young adult industry, we've all read that story about 100 times. But he is, like I said, an award-winning novelist, so I do have high hopes. His publisher, Riverhead Books, has released a 3D printed cover. It's a limited edition. They only printed about 200 copies.
Wow.
And they go on sale, yeah, for $150.
Nope. No. $150 for one book? I could take $150 and buy a bunch of hardcovers and be happy.
But for those of you listening on the podcast, the 3D book, which was printed on a 3D desktop printer, a replicator, MakerBot replicator.
Wow.
We are in the future. Science. You've got a 3D printer now. Hoverboards, 1 year. Get on it.
Even understand? How is that even possible?
A car company actually released plans for people to 3D print their own car, thus mocking the old pirating DVD ad of you wouldn't download a car, now you can.
That's genius. I love it.
So, are we moving along now?
Yeah, I was about to move us along, which you got to it first, which is totally cool. That means our brains are on the same wavelength, so it works.
Trinzy. Okay, so I knew that Bookish existed because I wrote a story about it about a year ago or so. I hadn't even realized that it launched or that it was a thing. But apparently I'm not the only one, because it did have a very troubled beginning and it didn't really take off. It was announced in May 2011, didn't come online until February 2013, and now it's actually been purchased by Zola, who plans to take its search recommendation engine and incorporate that in its own site. So from what it sounds like, though they seem to like Bookish, it sounds like they're planning on taking it apart and just adding the best parts of it to their own site.
It surprised me. I mean, I was familiar with Bookish, and I had been on the site because they featured a lot of different cover reveals for Penguin and
Mm.
even some Harper titles. But it was supposed to be the the answer to Amazon purchasing Goodreads. It was supposed to be the publisher's way of coming up with a book recommendation site where readers could come on and talk about books and add books to their shelves. But it was, I don't know, it really didn't seem like it took off to me either. I mean, I didn't really see anyone talking about, hey, follow me on Bookish. So the only thing I know that Bookish is actually interesting with is on their Instagram. They have some pretty cool shots of people reading on subways. And I only know this because I follow them. But otherwise, it's kind of sad that Bookish didn't work out.
What astounded me about this story is that everybody involved seemed to be operating in an alternate world in which Goodreads did not exist. For example, CEO of Hachette was quoted as saying about the project, "We saw a need for a great discovery engine, and that is what we created." And you know, that's a great quote. I'm glad you saw that need, but were you quoted by this in 2006? Like, Goodreads does exist, and whilst a lot of people don't like it right now, which is very understandable, totally like understand that, it's still a pretty good search discovery mode for finding books.
It's the #1 for right now. I mean, there's really no other site that's competing, you know, on that level. Bookish was hoping to compete with Goodreads, but you have a few other sites that are doing a much better job, like Booklikes. And I know a lot of good readers are trying out the new one, Leaf Marks. And then there's even a library thing, at least. I mean, so for them to say they saw a need, I don't really think there was a need.
One of the people from Zola, I think he's the CEO, I can't remember, he said, "Zola and Bookish share a vision of a richer reader experience, connecting readers to their favourite books, authors, tastemakers they trust, and of course to other readers. E-books are becoming personal social networks. Not only can we read them on phones and devices that we carry with us, but we can also share and comment right inside the reading apps themselves." Once again, are you from 2006? Are you time travelers? There is already something for that.
Yeah, Goodreads has had an app for a long time, and though it really sucked when it first came out, they've redone it recently, and it works much better.
Well, I just hope they do make a good product, because, you know, I know a lot of people out there are actually in the market. Like, they're willing to switch over if they can find a better site than Goodreads. You know, there is a market for it, but just don't talk about it like Goodreads isn't already there. Like, it's, you know, make something better. Don't just say that we need something, because we already have something.
What would be nice is for us to have something that's not connected to a publisher, because right now that's what Goodreads is. It's connected to Amazon that also publishes books. They have too much of a stake in the publishing world. There's Booklikes, but I really don't like Booklikes too much. Personally.
No, it's not user-friendly for me. But Bookish itself is not free from publisher influence. It was started and sponsored by Simon & Schuster, Hachette, and Penguin, I think it was. Yeah. Simon & Schuster has been up to other shenanigans this week.
Great shenanigans. They bought the Peanuts. Ka-ching.
Or did they rebuy it? Because apparently they had the master license up until 2005. Peanuts had 8 years of glorious, glorious freedom, and now Simon Schuster has them back.
Yeah, that's what happened. Yep. And it's pretty cool. I mean, Peanuts, it just reminds me of my childhood. You know, the whole wah, 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 wah.
I read a couple of comic strips and went, oh, why does this kid have a blanket? Oh, what's up with the dog and the bird? Oh, okay.
God. Lioness has a blanket because he loves it. I can't even believe you. Who are you?
And what's with the little girl holding the ball and the other little kid's always trying to kick it and she always keeps pulling it away? Is this symbolism for life? Yeah. Is this... Like, is this a theory about capitalism for lower class people?
Charlie, you know, is always getting picked on by her, and I don't remember her name right. Lucy, that's what it is. And Lucy is always trying to, you know, trip him up a little bit. Charlie Brown, though, yeah, she likes him. Okay, and it's how, you know, little kids always do. They, they express themselves by picking on each other. And man, the Peanuts are just awesome. I don't know what's wrong with you.
Yeah, well, apparently the Peanuts, they are taking over the world. With Simon and Schuster getting back the master license, there is about 500 short programs planned for 2014 and a possible movie for 2015. So brace yourself for that, peeps. Some industry news. Pitch Mad happened this week, and it was awesome to behold, as it always is. For those of you not familiar with Pitch Mad, it is a Twitter party using the hashtag PitMad, in which an author can tweet 140 characters of their synopsis, leaving aside a couple of characters to let agents know what genre and category it is. And any agents interested in that short synopsis can favorite the tweet and give the author instructions on how to submit. It's a great way of bringing authors with finished, polished manuscripts and agents interested together. And, you know, I always love watching the pitches come in. Some of them are so great, I'm like sitting there hoping that an agent snaps it up straight away. And others I'm like,
why have I not heard of this thing before? I mean,
it's one of those many social media tools that are coming out for authors these days, rather like MSWL, which is Manuscript Wishlist, in which agents take the time during the Twitter party using the hashtag MSWL to give wish lists of what kind of manuscripts they really want. And if you happen to just have a manuscript that meets those needs, then, you know, they're asking for you to submit it. That's what they really want. It's a good way of familiarizing yourself with the tastes and industry trends for the agents that you want to submit to, and which agents are the best to submit to, which are closest to the kind of story that you're writing, in that the kind of stories that they publicize and that they sell. So, you know, it was started by Brenda Drake, and the next one will be in March 2014.
So, moving on to more news.
A scientific algorithm that's come out. A bunch of scientists have come up with an algorithm that has an 84% success rate, they claim, to predict a bestseller. And they've come up with some tips for authors and publishers on how to recognize a bestseller.
Wow.
Yeah. Maths, is there anything it can't do?
Nothing. Now they're saying that, hey, there's just this simple formula where you can tell what the next book will be that's going to be hitting the bestsellers list. That's crazy. You can't predict that. You would have to know what readers are into at that time, which changes, you know, every so often.
They did that, though. That was part of the controls. They used a system called statistical stylometry, and they went back through Project Gutenberg, found a whole bunch of old books. They input the data. Stylometry, as many people will know, is a way of studying language and arts and sentence structure to find, you know, to generate data about the books and to come up with something quantitative. They then took those books, processed them using their algorithm, matched them up with with their historical period, gauged how they predicted pretty much very well for each book how popular it would be, and had an 84% success rate, which is quite surprising and, you know, rather interesting. What they found was common trends is that a novel has to be original, but that's a big duh for us. Like,
yeah,
original.
No, originality sells?
Yeah, it has to be original and it has to be an interesting idea. So, guys, that is information we already knew, but that's, yeah.
Thanks, Science. You're being awesome again.
However, the more interesting part is that the flowery, complicated language that comes from using lots of adverbs and verbs isn't actually a factor that would help make a novel a bestseller. Apparently, using a lot of basic conjunctions like and but is a lot better, and using a lot of nouns and adjectives than trying to make complicated sentences. They gave an example here that less successful work tended to include more verbs and adverbs and relied on words that explicitly describe actions and emotions, such as wanted, took, or promised, while more successful books favoured verbs that describe thought process, such as recognised and remembered.
I think it's easier for people to relate that way because more people talk with using and or but, you know, or even because in the beginning of their sentences versus probably doing it the way your English teacher kept correcting you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only flaw I can see from the basics of the report, not that I read in detail about their algorithm, is that to compare, they compared the language used in bestsellers, and to give a counterpoint to that, they skimmed the list of Amazon, books that are least selling and compared the language to that, which to me kind of creates a false equivalence in that, it's the writing that's keeping a certain book down. Maybe it's really bad dinosaur porn. And I mean, dinosaur porn's been pretty popular lately.
It has been very popular. It's extremely popular, so I don't know what you're talking about, Kat.
But it's probably not always the writing keeping. They're probably very niche books with very small markets, which you would then counter in later, but they don't seem to have done that. They don't seem to talk about, from what I read, genre or market,
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was wondering. Obviously, YA does pretty well sometimes, especially when it, gets picked up as a movie.
It's not necessarily true about the selling well at the moment, because young adult ebooks, we've got the book revenues through from the AAP, and they are down. And the trade paperbacks grew by 7.7% for the children's books. But overall, it hasn't been great. And even in September, ebooks for young adult books was down about 46%. But that doesn't mean that it's going to maintain. That's a bubble, just like real estate prices. That's not something that can always be maintained, and eventually, there's going to be a decline. And that's just because it's a trend. So maybe you won't be seeing such big numbers in the future. I worry about these things.
I can tell you did a lot of research, and I'm just like bringing some opinions here. You're bringing some, well, actually, when we looked at the percentage, and I'm just going like,
dude, that is not my accent.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I can't do it. I'm still practicing. You'll have to excuse me.
How long have you been my co-blogger for now? And you still can't do my accent.
It's tricky.
Anyway, moving on to some lightheartedness, it's good to see that the young adult authors, the debuts for 2014, are mixing things up. They made it into Publishers Weekly this week because they have been daring each other to write, and unfortunately, those who don't meet the 30-minute dare challenge have to change their Twitter RVs to something embarrassing for 24 hours, which brings some nice publicity to those authors and their books, and also helps them get more books written. So it's always good to see authors interacting not only with each other to support each other, but making a fun game of it and getting the community involved. That's always a really nice story to come across.
That is awesome. It reminds me of Friday the 13ers. They had a Truth or Dare challenge that they used to do every Friday, I think, and each author would come up with a new video challenge that they had to do, but I don't think they took it to the level of the 14ers.
I always like these groups of debut authors that form every year, like the Lucky 13ers and the Apocalypses. The 30-minute dare just seems like a really good idea to me. I first came across it when I saw that Elizabeth May had a picture of Robert Pattinson in the the most horrible Christmas sweater ever.
Is
And
that
I was
why
like,
that was? I've been
yeah,
wondering.
that's why.
I've been wondering why she's been changing her Twitter avatar. And I tweeted her the other day. I said, stop dazzling me or something like that.
To another writer, although not such a super writer, an award-winning crime novelist. It was found out this week, may have been award-winning, but was actually also a convicted murderer and is still, still serving his sentence of 30 years without the chance for parole for a murder that he committed several years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is that what the inspiration was from his crime novels?
No. What happened was his name is Alaric Hunt, and he is the author of Cuts Through Bone. He won a prestigious award in the crime genre for debut authors from the Private Eye Writer of America. And when a publisher went to follow up on it and tried to contact him, they only got his cousin Jade Reed, who admitted that actually he wasn't available. He was in an institution and wouldn't be available for a very long time. What happened was that he and his brother, in an effort to distract emergency services while they robbed a jewelry store, lit a fire, and unfortunately a 23-year-old student was killed by smoke inhalation from that, so they were both sentenced to 30 years plus jail time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Yeah, so but the book doesn't seem to have anything to do with his crime. It's about a gentleman who is falsely accused of murdering his girlfriend, so a middle-aged detective and a plucky young assistant seem to head off to try and solve it, so it doesn't seem to have anything to do with that. First, movie news. We've got some great movie news. Flowers in the Attic. Lifetime Channel is bringing that out soon. You've probably seen the promos for it. The sequel has been signed on already because even though Flowers in the Attic isn't out yet, it's so highly anticipated that they've just gone ahead and signed on for the sequel. So that'll start filming soon, and that's exciting for any fans of the books. I have never read them, but they are apparently something that you kind of need to read. If you're in the young adult genre, it's something you eventually need to read. One movie coming out shortly that is definitely not aimed at YA, but however we have to cover, is Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. Outlander is a very, very famous, iconic, historical romance, time travel romance. And it is highly, highly anticipated. The trailer came out this week. Go watch it for yourself. As for me, I think I watched it and I was like, yep, Claire. They seem to have done a pretty good job with Claire. But I was looking for Jamie, and I'm not sure that I'm that impressed with Jamie. I have to see more. I think I have to see more of Jamie. You haven't read it, have you?
No, I mean, so I don't really know much about it.
Outlander, for those of you who don't know, is a monster of a book, and the author Diana Gabaldon has a tendency to wax poetical over botany. It's very, very long, specific, and detailed, and it also contains a lot of very controversial material, including a scene of domestic violence, which some people would say was sexy, and I would say is definitely concerning. I know I enjoyed it the first time I read it, but there's also some critical issues with it, so it's not usually a book I recommend.
Well, let me watch the trailer really quick.
Seem to have fallen through time.
Ooh, that looks good. Wait, it's coming on Stars? Yes. This looks really good. So she falls back in time? Is this what happens?
Yeah, she goes through, she enters a druidic circle, a fairy hub, and falls back in time. She's stuck there. She meets a rather strapping young Scottish lad named Jamie, who she falls in love with, and it proceeds from there. Shenanigans ensue, my friends.
Ooh. I might actually have to check this series out now because I love stories like that where the main character is from around there in that time period and mysteriously they get transported back in time. Love that.
Yeah, just make sure that you are prepared to sit down and read a lot about different types of native thistle, because you will. It fulfills a lot of to use the name of a very good book club by Felicia Day. It fulfills a lot of vaginal fantasies.
Oh.
But yeah, but upon closer critical inspection, it does not quite pass muster.
We're moving on to rights now.
Because one of our favourite authors here at Cuddlebuggery sold a book this week and the rights were announced.
Ooh, who was it? Let me know. Tell me now.
Lauren DeStefano.
Ah, yes. She is selling a middle grade series now.
Yup, Bloomsbury acquired her middle grade series. She is the author of the Chemical Gardens series, so if any of you might have read Wither, which was a book that Steph and I really liked. The name of the book is Pram, tells the story of a girl with a unique talent. She can talk to ghosts. After befriending a boy named Clarence, or Casper, sorry, added that part in. Pram decides to search for her father in the hope that he can answer her questions about her mother's death. It comes out in fall 2015.
Sounds interesting. It also reminds me of Claire Legrand's last book, The Year of Shadows, which was about a girl and her befriending a few ghosts to find out basically more about herself in the ghost's past. I do like her writing style. I haven't yet read Perfect Ruin, but I did order it and it came in the other day. And let me tell you, that cover is amazing in person.
Oh, so beautiful.
And what they did with the spine, like once you take the dust jacket off, it's a black hardcover, but on the spine it's like in this red metallic, and it just stands out. It is gorgeous. So another author that has a new book is Stephanie Perkins. She's the author of Anna and the French Kiss, which I've not yet read, and a lot of people saying
Brilliant book. Brilliant book.
You read it?
I loved Anna and the French Kiss. Loved it.
I did not know you read this book. How did I not know this?
Sure did. It was sweet. It is a very cute book, so I am looking forward to this book. What's it about?
It's actually an anthology, and she's the editor. So the authors include Rainbow Rowell, David Levithan, Gail Foreman, Allie Carter, Holly Black, Kirsten White, Lainey Taylor, Jenny Hunt, Kelly Link, and Matt De La Pina. I think that's how you pronounce his name.
There's a couple of dark horses in there. It's like I know every single one of those authors in there. They're really big authors, except for like two who I have never heard of before.
Yeah, same. Like I have not heard of Matt De La Pina or Jenny Han and Kelly Link.
Yeah, I haven't heard of those three, which just makes them a random addition, but obviously they must have done something to earn their place on such a prestigious list of big-name young adult authors, because that's most of the big ones.
Right, it is. It's a lot of heavy hitters. And I'm kind of excited because, I really like them. Especially, I love the way Gail Foreman writes. And obviously, I'm a huge fan of Lainey Taylor.
Oh, yeah.
So the anthology is set for publication October of this year, 2014, and it's coming out from St. Martin's Press. It's going to be called My True Love Gave to Me 12 Holiday Stories. So.
A book I'm really looking forward to is one that Harper & Collins, their imprint Bales and Bray, has just bought, which is Blue Screen, future YA cyberpunk series from Partial's author Dan Wells. Kind of interested, since I myself have tried to write a young adult futuristic cyberpunk novel. I want to see what this is all about. It looks really good. In the series, a teen hacker's friend. I wrote a teen hacker. Dude, are you in my brain? Anyway.
He's in your brain. He's in it. He's taking my ideas.
In my brain, a teen hacker's friend overdoses on an illicit digital drug, which leads her to uncover a mystery with roots deep in her LA neighborhood's crime syndicate. Okay, when we go to the young adults this week, New York Times bestsellers, John Green is on there 3 times.
That's more like it.
Yes. But The Book Thief is #1 by my arch nemesis Marcus Zusak.
Why's he your arch nemesis?
Why? You don't know?
Let me guess. Is he outdoing you on Goodreads followers again?
Yes! Every week he is #1 and I am #2 for most Goodreads followers for Australian people, and I find that so offensive. I mean, just because I barely even visit the site anymore doesn't mean that Marcus Zusak should get all the followers. Beats me every week. So offensive. Fault in Our Stars is #2, Looking for Alaska is #3, Steelheart by Brandon Sanderson. Good job sneaking on there, dude. Is #4, and Paper Towns by John Green is #5.
Interesting.
But guess who's at #9? It's John Green again!
Which book is this?
An Abundance of Catherines.
Interesting. You know, I have not read any of his other books besides The Fault in Our Stars, which I found was good. Don't get me wrong, the writing was good, the characters were good, I gave it 4 stars, but I didn't love it. I mean, I don't know if it was just the hype.
Making it on the New York Times list, top 10, 4 times. What are you trying to prove? What are you compensating for?
He's doing what Obama told him to do. He's keep being awesome, okay?
Anyway, we better wrap this up. Thank you for joining me for Buzzworthy News. This is Kat Kennedy and Stephanie Sinclair, your delightful and slightly inebriated hosts. We hope you join us again. And as always, enjoy your week, but even more, enjoy a good book.
Slightly inebriated? Who's slightly inebriated?
Just a little bit.